Okay, this is going to be another shitweb video. Um, so, we've been looking at the system over and over again, making little tweaks. Particularly the DM is doing the majority of that. But something that's kind of been on my mind is the character I'm playing is what the reskin calls a courser, which is just ranger. It's just the ranger chassis, but instead of favorite enemy or favorite foe, it has a feature called target lock, which is a totally new feature that the whoever was writing the reskin came up with. And the spirit of it, it's what Ranger kind of always should have had. What it does is it's extremely similar to Hunter's Mark. You activate it, and then you get an extra D6 on your weapon attacks, and it scales to a D8 later on, and then to a D10 later on. You ignore, while under the effects of target lock, you ignore cover, or half and 3/4 cover. You get advantage on perception and survival checks to track targets. And then you get some other minor upgrades, like at level 9, you gain the ability to see invisible targets, and then at level 17, I think, you gain something else. Now, also, this is the design the 5e Ranger always should have gone in. The subclasses all have features that tie into it. Essentially, Hunter's Mark, or target lock in this case, is the chassis, the main scaffolding term I've heard used for this type of discussion. The main class scaffolding is what you put all the subclass features on. So it has a variety of features that tie into target lock. I think I went with, because it's kind of a new class, it has new subclasses. I think I chose the Stalker subclass, which is, kind of more stealthy, repositioning type of subclass. And what that lets you do is, while target lock is active, you can dash as a bonus action, you can hide as a bonus action, you get some other minor benefits, and then you get a few what are called precision strikes. And these are non-damaging rider effects you can throw on your attacks while you have target lock active. And you get, I think it's double proficiency bonus per day. And it's stuff like, okay, you reduce their speed to 0. Okay, you give them disadvantage on the next saving throw they make. Or you give them disadvantage on the next attack roll they make. All things that will make a lot of sense contextually. They're good utility. I like those. But my only real concern with target lock is the way it differentiates from Hunter's Mark. Instead of it being like Hunter's Mark, you throw it on a single target and it only affects that target, which would have other implications with the design. It's kind of just a general effect. You activate it, and it's worded like the flavor is like your armor, your various pieces of gear initiate, some target lock-on systems aiding your aim and just helping you to be a little more accurate, improving your damage, and giving you a variety of other effects. I'm kind of running it, thinking of it as like my character's armor and weapons and various gear, all of their machine spirits harmonize a little bit better, so that just everything just works, more efficiently for a short time. So maybe this is like, forcing all the machine spirits to get along. Maybe this is doing something else. Haven't gotten quite that far in the thought process, but that's kind of the general idea I have for how it works. But again, the problem there is that it's just kind of a general effect. It affects anybody you attack. So it's more like it's a buff that you apply to yourself as opposed to a target thing that you apply to an enemy. And I don't think it's necessarily overpowered. Maybe it's slightly overtuned because it's just an extra die of damage on all your attacks. So there's still, even without some of our homebrew changes, there's still a variety of ways to take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Like theoretically, if you really wanted to, you could dip Courser. I can't remember if this is a level 1 or level 2 feature, but you could dip Courser enough to get that, and then just go Fighter to maximize the damage output, I guess. But or you just stick with Courser and you grab Crossbow Expert or Polearm Master or whatever to maximize the damage that way, maximize the number of attacks. You know, those are the two immediate ways I would think that you would optimize this. But lots of road work going on my way to work lately. It's really annoying. Necessary though. But so the reason I'm concerned about that is because it does pretty much everything Hunter's Mark would do and way more, but it's not limited in the way Hunter's Mark is. You don't have to move it around. It's just kind of active. But at the same time, maybe that's just cleaner in general. Like, having to move Hunter's Mark around is always going to be goofy and limiting on action economy. And it's always kind of underpowered as a result. Because, like, you know, if you're looking at the math of, the optimization math, like at early levels, it's like, yeah, just throw Hunter's Mark on stuff. But then once you have things like Hunter's Mark, Crossbow Expert, and Sharpshooter, it's almost always going to be better to get that one additional attack over adding a single a d6 to all your attacks. Like, just the way the math kind of works out. Unless you're fighting something for more than 2 or 3 turns, then it makes sense. So, like, against a big boss, yeah, throw Hunter's Mark. But, like, almost by the time those become options and you can actually get Crossbow Expert and Sharpshooter going on a build, you're going to be fighting bosses that might take... I mean, that depends on your DM, exactly how they're running stuff. Yeah, you'll fight some bosses that'll take a bunch of rounds to deal with, but also at that point, you might have better spells to use anyway. You know, you'll have access to Entangle, Ensnaring Strike, those types of spells, and you just have a variety of better things that you might want to cast instead of Hunter's Mark. And it's like, and I don't want to talk about the 5.24 rework, re-release, extremely minor patch, buy all new books, guys, fucking update to 5e, but like, that didn't go anywhere near far enough. So I don't really have a solution in this video. I'm not even really sure it needs a solution, you know? It's just one of those things I kind of got my eye on. Like, maybe this is a little overtuned, but if it's overtuned, it might not be overtuned enough to really warrant thinking about. Like, because when it comes to game design, and especially in a game where there's a bunch of different, like, character options to choose from, everything's not going to be balanced, and you shouldn't really try to make everything perfectly balanced. You just gotta get it in the ballpark. That's all. As long as it's in the ballpark, you're fine. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, the Courser is doing a little more damage consistently, and it gets a bunch of extra options. Like, it's doing some stuff that, like, okay, the rogue gets to do for free, and the augment assist has to spend points on. Okay, well then, instead of, like, nerfing the courser or the rogue / renegade, just buff the augment assist a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, especially if the augment assist is falling that far behind, you know, give them, you can always do something like, okay, you get some extra points, like, you get some extra overdrive points, they're just key points. You know, there's been tons of monk fixes, and there's lots of ways you can kind of think about it and go about it. Like, some extra points would be great. Some extra something out, like give them a little extra damage on something, but that can also just be, it doesn't need to be like a real class change. It can be just items you give them that only the augment assist can use for whatever reason. But you know, that's the type of thing, like, oh, this player's falling behind a little bit, let me give him a small boost. That kind of thing. Probably not really an issue. And I'm not really sure how it would change target lock if it did need to be changed. Like, you know, maybe give them, I don't know, something. Like, maybe it can only affect proficiency bonus number of targets or intelligence modifier number of targets or something. And whenever you do, like, sure, you can take the dash action as a bonus action when your target lock's engaged. Oh, why is Barb here? Oh, we'll find out. So, you know, there's thoughts like that. Who knows? But I'll think about it a little more. I'm probably not going to make a follow-up video. I might talk to the DM about it. But if something interesting comes up, then, yeah, we'll talk about it. That's all I got for you today.